Hi Devo, my name is Abby, for those of you who haven't met me, and I am part of the team here at Devotion. And tonight I'm going to be kicking us off on a brand new series called Highs and Lows, where we're going to be asking some really big questions like, where is God in times of challenge? How can I have a rock-like faith? How can I thrive and not just survive during this time? So tonight, as I explore this topic of where is God in times of challenge, I really want you to think about what is the biggest challenge in your life right now. Maybe it's coronavirus. Maybe that's taking up all of your thoughts and it just feels like everything has changed and it's such a big thing. But maybe for some of you, there's stuff going on in your family or with your health or with your friendships, and that just feels way bigger than the pandemic. Whatever it is for you, I really want you to think about your experience of God in that situation. So tonight we're going to be looking at the story of Jesus calming or commanding the storm, and that's found in Mark chapter 4 verse 35 to 41, and it goes like this. That day, when evening came, he said to his disciples, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd behind, they took him along, just as he was in the boat. There were also other boats with him. A furious squall came up, and the waves broke over the boat, so that it was nearly swamped. Jesus was in the stern, sleeping on a cushion. The disciples woke him and said to him, "Teacher, don't you care if we drown?" He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. He said to his disciples, "Why are you so afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They were terrified and asked each other, "Who is this? Even the wind and the waves obey him." So tonight I'm going to ask us two questions, and the first one is, do you believe God is there? Now in this story, Jesus is sleeping. And some people might say Jesus had so much peace that he was just able to sleep in the middle of the storm, in the middle of a crisis. He was asleep. Maybe that's true. Or maybe he was just tired. Maybe he was exhausted from preaching to large crowds and going on, and he knew there was more to come and he just needed to sleep. I believe Jesus was completely God and completely human, and he would have slept. But the truth is that Jesus was present. He was there. He didn't send the disciples off in a boat by themselves. He journeyed with them. And if we carry on looking at Jesus' story, we see that he experiences suffering. He's present in suffering. He wept when one of his best friends died. He was tempted in the desert. He asked for the cup of suffering to be taken from him in the Garden of Gethsemane, and he experienced the greatest suffering when he made the greatest sacrifice for us on the cross. I believe God knows suffering, and he is with us through whatever we're going through. He is with us in this time. So do you believe God is there? And do you believe God cares? Do you believe God cares? I think it's so interesting that the disciples, they don't wake Jesus to ask him for help. They wake him to say, "Don't you care if we drown?" Now, I believe God wants us to ask for help, but throughout the Bible, we see people calling out to God for help. Psalm 35, verse 23, "Awake and rise to my defense. Contend for me, my God and Lord. Fight for me." And I believe at the moment we should be praying and we should be asking God to intervene and to fight for us and to change the situation, to turn it around. But that's not what the disciples ask. They ask, "Don't you care?" They panic and they forget everything they've experienced of Jesus so far. They've seen him heal. They've seen him cast out demons. They've spent time with him. They've got to know him. They know he cares. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got in the boat with him in the first place. But I think understanding if God cares, understanding God's character, it takes time. You need to delve into the Bible and see what God is like. You need to pray and spend time with God. You need to chat to people who know and love God. And you need to grapple with that. Do I believe that God is loving? Do I believe that God cares? I believe God cares deeply about you and about your circumstances. And I believe He wants you to get to a place where in the middle of the storm, in the middle of the crisis, that you can call on Him for help, that you don't get stuck just calling on Him and asking, do you care? Now, I can't totally unpack this whole idea of God in the middle of challenge. Where is God in such a short amount of time? But I want you to start asking these questions in your groups. And I want to leave you with two things that I thought were really helpful. This line from a book that Joe gave me. A Christian is not so much a person who has solved the problem of pain, suffering, and the coronavirus, but one who has come to love and trust a God who has Himself suffered. I thought that's really powerful. Your God knows what you're going through. And this quote that I came across when I was preparing for this talk, that we need to learn to trust in the who in the middle of the what. Trust the who in the middle of the what. So we can fix our eyes on God and not our situation. So I'm going to give your small group leaders some questions, and I really want you to unpack this further in your small groups. Don't be afraid to ask these really big questions, and we're not all going to be on the same page, and that is okay. But I believe our God is there, and I believe our God cares. Thanks, Devo.